written book after book, all in an effort to satisfy our quest for knowing God. Now, after many millennia, mankind is more at a loss to the nature of God. In fact, it appears that the tools we created to help us find God serve more as obstacles and hindrances. Those obstacles now stand between God and us. We extend to you an invitation to join Master Eric and Omkar for the weekly program Between God and Us every Sunday evening from 6 p.m. to 7 p.m. exclusively on Sankhya television. Between God and Us. Knowledge to free your soul.
Good evening and welcome to the program Between God and Us. This is episode 5 of season 2, where we try to cover the information that lies between God and us. The knowledge that hopefully can take us closer to understanding our true purpose in this world. Today's episode, we cover Lord Shiva, Shivratri, and we are doing a summary because the information is quite a lot for us to cover in a couple hourly programs. So once again, I'm here with Master Eric, and he is going to enlighten us in the topic Lord Shiva. Sitaram.
All right, thank you. First of all, I want to say Sitaram, Assalamu Alaikum, Sairam, and good evening, everyone. You know, what you just said is true. Normally, when I do classes on Lord Shiva, it takes 30 days to even brush the surface of the information about Lord Shiva because there's so much about him and what he represents. And we're gonna go over the general terms today, or tonight, but what I want everybody, before you make an offering to any deity, shouldn't you know as much as possible about that deity? What is the personality of the form that you're praying to? See, this is what a lot of people don't understand. And when you do prayers, even your daily prayers for a deity, you need to develop a relationship with that deity. And then all the articles that you're given to that deity during a puja, you have to know the meaning. Why are you given these items? Because if you give it because the pundit that's in charge, he says, put this down, put this down, put this down. But you don't know the significance and meaning of that item. Where is the genuality?
The devotion.
Yeah. You know, so this is what in future programs we're going to start getting into, because I want people to really know why, what, when, and where to the actual deities. And a lot of people wouldn't hear this. So I want to go over briefly, why does Lord Shiva have on him certain items? Okay? So the first one, the crescent moon, which is adorned on his head.
Right.
Okay? Now, in Shiva Tattva is where there is no mind. None. And the moon signifies the mind. When there is no mind, then how can this have no mindedness? You will always be in control of your mind. So the no mind is the infinite consciousness itself. And it expresses itself in the manifest world itself, that consciousness. So wisdom is beyond the mind. but it needs to be expressed with a tinge of mind, and this is symbolized by the crescent moon. So that is the definition. But there are many stories, and there are different stories of how the moon came on his forehead. So one of the most famous stories is when Chandra, which is the moon, he was married to Dakshin's daughter, Sati's sister. And then he started liking the other sister, not Sati. And he started being with the other sister. Well, when Dakshin found out, he got rage. And he went and started doing his prayers, his mantra, to build a clay replica of Chandra. And when he made the replica of Chandra, he started doing the prayers on it. And as he was installing life into that, it was a clay murti more or less, the life of Chandra started to leave. And when it got to where this was almost full, Chandra was depleted, started getting the cracks, everything on his body. So Sati went to pray to Lord Shiva to ask, what can we do? And then I'm going to give you a history lesson in the next program. You'll let me know who the sage was. And they said, go to this sage. This sage is the one who wrote the 4th Veda. And ask him for the protection mantra, the death-conquering mantra. And that's when the death-conquering mantra was ever known, at that moment. Sati took that. They took Chandra to the beach. And he was almost looking like the sand now. And everybody sat down and started doing that mantra, the death-conquering mantra. And then they were all sad. They were losing hope because he was almost gone. Lord Shiva appeared. And Lord Shiva put life back in Chandra. And when he did, the idol that Dakshin did crumbled. And now Dakshin's upset again. He's wondering what went on. So then Chandra said, thank you, Lord Shiva. He said, I have not saved you. I've only got you to where you exist. And in order to keep you alive, I have to install you, the crescent, on my forehead. And he said, from now on, I can only keep you half of what you should be. So from now on, half the time the moon will go dark, and half the time the moon will come back full. So, and then he placed Chandra on his forehead, up in his hair. So that's one of the stories. I mean, it's a lot more detail. I'm doing a summary.
Yeah.
But in that story, that's where the sage of the 4th Veda came up. Number 2, the death-conquering mantra. First time it was ever mentioned. And then how the moon came up on his forehead. But there's other stories. So I'm not saying this is the one that you should live by. But it is a good example of why the moon is dark, some, why it's lit. And when you start involving the sage, you start involving the death-conquering mantra, there's a lot of facts inside there, which I like. So that's why I brought that up. So that is for the crescent moon on Lord Shiva. Now, Lord Shiva's damaru that you'll hear being played.
Yeah.
What does that signify? And what it signifies, it symbolizes the universe, which is always expanding and collapsing. From an expansion, it collapses and then it re-expands again. This is the process of creation. So if you look at the damaru, the top and bottom is wide, but the middle is slim. So that's the expansion and collapsing. It symbolizes.
I was just thinking, it's like an explosion.
Or implosion.
Like when something explodes.
When it collapses, and then, yeah, so
The
it's
shape, yeah.
implosion, explosion,
Okay. All right. Yeah.
right? Now, from, if you see your heartbeat, is it just one beat? Or does it beat up and come down? Beat up, come down, right? This is just not one straight line. It's a rhythm. The whole world and everything within the world, Omkar, is nothing but rhythms. Rising energy and collapsing energy. Okay? Everything that we see, the chair, the desk, you, me, we're all made of the 5 elements.
Right.
We're all made from the same atom. So this is what it's trying to tell you, that it also signifies, look at the shape of the damaru, which we just covered. Collapse, expands. The damaru is also the symbol of sound. Sound is rhythm, and sound is energy. I want you to know this. This is why when you say mantras, you have to fluctuate that mantra to get the massive and the effectiveness of that mantra. So when you have a bij in the mantra, we talked about it earlier.
Yeah.
You have to raise that bij, right? To bring the rhythm up. The sound will rise, right? But people like to do it at one tone. Well, you're going to put them to sleep. You have everything about the world, the universe, is energy and sound. Now, the whole universe is nothing but a wave function. Energy goes out, comes in. Out. Why do you think the universe is expanding? Scientists say every day, every minute. Because the sound waves are going out, in. Now, what does quantum physics say? It says the same thing. So this is where scientists and scripture start to merge. The whole universe, they say, the whole universe is nothing but rhythms. It's just one wave, then the next wave. So the damaru signifies dual nature of the universe. I don't know if a lot of people heard this before, but now you'll know when somebody plays the damaru, especially Lord Shiva, and he has different dances. Creation dance, destruction dance, and guess what's in each one? That damaru. So it's very important, right? Lord Shiva's Trishul, the trident. You always hear about him holding the trident, right? Now, there are many different explanations on the trident, right? But when you look at an explanation, it just doesn't involve the Trinity. It just doesn't involve the three lokes. See, this is what people hear.
Right.
And there's a lot more meaning to it. Okay? So let me go over that. The Trishul also represents the three aspects of consciousness, which is waking, dreaming, and sleeping. And it represents also the three ganas, sattva, rajas, and tamas. Holding, when he holds the Trishul, signifies that Lord Shiva himself is above all three states of this consciousness. Yet he's the upholder of the three states of consciousness. So a lot of people, he has a lot of responsibility in what he does. Now, the divinity, which is the trident, Lord Vishnu, Brahma, and Shiva, is beyond the three ganas. Okay? But it holds the three ganas together. A lot of people don't talk about this. Okay? Now, the three states in English, the three types of pain that arise in life: physical, spiritual, and ethereal. Okay, that's why when you meditate and you get to a higher level of meditation, it's very important to go and tap into the ethereal plane within yourself and the universe. Because where does all viruses, diseases, sickness, where does it develop first? It develops in the ethereal state, the ethereal plane within us. Then it eventually gets to the physical plane within us. So that's why I want you just to think. Google it. Everybody can Google it. Since when do you hear a top yogi in the Himalayas have to go to the doctor? He eliminates it. He eliminates it in the ethereal state of the human plane, of the body.
Right.
Right? So they never get sick. So doing this is so important of learning in meditation how to go to the 7 planes, not American Airlines, the 7 planes within the consciousness of within yourself. Okay. So people, I'm not trying to get too complicated. If I do, stop me and I'll explain a little more.
Okay.
Right? But this is why we have these items on Lord Shiva. Okay? Now, what's the significance, can you tell me, of why Ganga flows through off of Lord Shiva? How did she end up there?
Well, I don't know. I remember hearing the story about it, not coming to mind right now.
Right. So what happened was, first I'll go over the meaning of why she's there and what's the purpose.
Yeah.
And it's just not to give water, right?
Right.
And then we'll go over a short story, how she got where she is on Lord Shiva. Ganga means knowledge. Knowledge that purifies the soul. Head is always the symbol of knowledge. Heart is the symbol of love. If Ganga were to be love, it should have come out of the heart of Shiva, if it was about love.
Okay.
It is coming out of the head because it simply means knowledge. Knowledge is liberating. Knowledge brings freedom. And knowledge is purifying of yourself in the physical state and also in the spiritual state. all these characteristics of knowledge. Knowledge is also movement, motion. So Ganga has come out of Shiva's head. What do you think why? To purify. Don't we have to use water to bathe? We also use it to drink. Don't we use it in puja? To purify. So she runs now when she was asked because of the drought on the earth to please let Ganga come down and bring water to the earth. But she is so strong that if you just unleashed her, everybody would be wiped out.
Yeah. That was the story.
So she comes through the locks of Lord Shiva, which filters the speed, the strength, to make it perfect for the earth. Right? So, now.
As we're on the topic, right? So then the Himalayas, where the source of the Ganges is symbolic of this concept, or is this concept based on the Himalaya mountain? You know, I think it's Gomukh, they call it. The source of the Ganges is this ever-flowing spring from the top of the Himalayas.
But have they really physically found the true source of where it's coming from? No. That's what makes it so unique. And no matter what, and it was promised, no matter what goes in the Ganga River, it's always purified. So you'll see people, there's a lot of stuff that's put in the Ganga River nowadays. Yeah. But the water is still pure. And that was put down from that time throughout history. It said no matter what, the Ganga water will always be pure. So, but the story of the origin of Ganga, there's many again. This is what confuses people. Yeah. But one of the famous ones is when the king of the Himalayas, the wife was pregnant. And she was pregnant with poverty. But there was already a sister, older sister, and her name was Ganga. So when the demons came to kill the king's wife, Lord Shiva happened to come. The king fought off for a little bit, but he was getting overbeared. And Lord Shiva protected the king and the queen so that they wouldn't lose the baby, which is poverty. Right. When Lord Shiva got done, he sat down to meditate. And Ganga come up, and he was going to give her a boon. And you know what her boon was? She wanted to marry Lord Shiva. Okay. And Lord Shiva said, that can never happen. Ask for another boon. She goes, no, I only want to be with you. And she loved Lord Shiva. But Lord Shiva keeps saying he cannot marry her. Because Lord Shiva already knew that he was supposed to marry poverty. Mm-hmm. Right? Yeah. And then she went and she loved him so much that he said, all right, you can be with me forever, but not as my wife. I will place you on my head. And then he gave her the power, because remember, she was mortal at the time. Okay. So now she resides on his head. That's a very quick story. There's a lot more details in the story. All right. But it's one of the reasons why she's on his head. Okay? She's always with him. She couldn't marry him, but she's always with him. And she was happy with that. Okay? Now, the significance of the linga. And I hope everybody's listening because it's really neat and interesting when you look into the linga. It means identification, the word lingam. A symbol through which you can identify what truth is, what the reality is, what is not visible, yet can be identified by one thing, and it's the lingam. When a baby is born, how do you know whether the baby is female or male? Only through one part of the body. You can identify whether the baby is a boy or girl. The reason is from the genital of the baby. And a lot of sects within Hinduism say the lingam is the part of the male to identify that's the male. The base is the female. Okay, a lot of them believe in that and they go through it. So, but one thing that's really interesting about the lingam, is it just contained to India? Lingams?
No.
Now I'm talking way back, not now. So, no. Why would you say no?
No, I remember seeing it appearing in different cultures that were not traditionally Hindu, you could say.
Correct. So, they are all over the world. You have them in Belize. You have them in Malaysia. And you look at the geographics, the distance between. They were worshiping Lord Shiva.
Yeah.
And there are many other cultures that worship the lingam. They are still finding more all over the world that they had no idea that they would have a lingam.
Yeah.
They would be worshiping Lord Shiva. Okay? Now, it also identifies the Lord of this creation. He has no form. His true form is formless.
Right.
He has no beginning. He has no end. So they said there should be a sign to identify him. And that is by the lingam. Now, the Shiva lingam is very ancient. If you go to the formless through the Shiva lingam, it is a symbol that is the representation of the cosmos and the center of the cosmos as one, not separate. So you got the combined power of the Shakti, which is Adi Shakti, and Lord Shiva in one, with the base and the lingam himself. That's the two principles of creation. Why do you think the universe turns?
I was just thinking,
It takes both.
Right, I was just thinking, I was picturing it like when you get an image of the like a galaxy or the universe.
It's turning.
In the center has something and everything is turning around it. So then even the lingam, if you look at it from above, let's say, it resembles a galaxy or the universe.
Correct.
Yeah.
So, and then when you look at the Muslims, when they're going around the Kaaba,
I want to bring that up.
the same thing.
Yeah.
You know, they're going in a circle. So,
I was watching even an aerial view of the Vatican City. There's the center and the Vatican, like the roadway going up to it, and then there's a circle. If you take an aerial, if you look at it aerially, it looks like a lingam.
correct. Actually, not a lingam,
What?
a keyhole.
Okay.
It's a keyhole. And there's we could do a whole show just on why are there keyhole symbols in over 20 countries in the world from the ancients. What is the significance of the keyhole? You know, and the keyhole in some is linked to the direct to the moon. Okay? So we'll go into that. I don't know when, but it's a good topic to go into.
Okay.
Now, what about Nandy? Who's Nandy?
Well, as a bull, right?
Right.
And he's supposed to be like the chief bodyguard, well, in layman's terms, of Lord Shiva, the attendant of Shiva.
Right. His number one devotee.
Yeah.
Right. But he's also the vehicle for Lord Shiva.
Okay.
Right? Remember when he got married, he's on Nandy, going to the palace to marry Sati. Now, the bull is also used as the symbol of dharma, righteousness, from long ancient time throughout the world. Lord Shiva riding on Nandy, the bull, simply means that you are righteous and truthful. The infinite consciousness, the innocent consciousness is with you. Go ahead.
No, I just remember from a movie, right? Now I don't read scripture.
You like movies.
No, not that. Like
I'm just joking.
The amount of scripture I have. But I remember in the movie Moses, where they were worshipping what they call a false deity, but it was a bull. So let's say from the ancient Egyptian times, the bull was a symbol of something related to this.
Actually, they made the bull out of gold.
Yeah.
And when Moses was up there so long, they thought he was dead.
Yeah.
So they said, okay, the God he's talking about don't exist.
Right.
So they made a bull out of gold and started praying to the bull, the ancient god of Egypt, one of them.
Right. But he is related to Nandy in any way, or that's unrelated?
No.
Okay. All right.
But that didn't end well when Moses came back down.
No.
So what I'm saying, symbols, a lot of beliefs, ancient beliefs, are intertwined by the same symbol.
Okay.
It's just like Isis. Who is Isis? An Egyptian, which is Mother Kali.
Okay.
And we'll do a whole thing when it comes to Diwali and close to Mother, because we got to see, where is she prayed? What countries? How many countries actually pray to her? But a different name.
Okay.
In a way, the symbol of the bull could be tied to Nandy, but the reason they prayed for him, the golden bull, was different.
Okay.
Okay.
I was just wondering, because you might have some devout Christians say, well, the Hindus praying to the bull, or the bull means this, but Moses was against that particular image. So probably
No, by the way they were praying to the image.
Okay.
It wasn't for purity. It was for self-gain.
Okay.
And in every religion, prayer should not be for self-gain. It should be for self-attainment, to where we're actually getting close to God, not asking for worldly and material things.
Okay.
Okay?
All right.
Now, the one consciousness danced and manifested into 1,000,000 species within the world. Millions of species. So this infinite creation
That's a different
Is-
number than the Bhagavad Gita.
is the dance of Lord Shiva.
Okay.
Now remember, he is the Lord of dance. And a lot of people know that you cannot beat, no one in the universe can beat Lord Shiva in the form when he does dance. So when we get into other scriptures, we're going to see where he was challenged to a dance. And Lord Shiva did prevail, but I'm not going to say who challenged him until we do the program.
Okay.
Because it'll blow everybody's mind. Right? Now, what's the significance of chanting Om Namah Shivaya? Now, there's very different meanings, but I'm looking more in the higher spiritual meaning of Om Namah Shivaya. Do you have any idea?
I think is like you're trying to go past the physical and attach it to the non-physical, but the metaphysical side of your being.
Pretty close.
Okay.
Pretty close. Om Namah Shivaya is one of the most powerful, but simple to say, mantra there is. Okay? It builds the energy in your system and it cleans the environment at the same time. Mantras are those energizing sounds, which we talked about before, which uplifts the consciousness. Om Namah Shivaya. These words are important because Na, Ma, Shi, Va, Ya. Those syllables.
Right.
Right? So let's go over that. These syllables represents, the 5 letters, represents the 5 elements. Earth, water, fire, ether. Om is the sound of the universe. Om also represents peace and love. Okay?
Okay.
So when you put it all together, you've got peace, love, harmony, and all the 5 elements when you're chanting this. Some other explanations also say that Om Namah Shivaya means everything that I have is not mine. It's yours. So God gave us everything. So again, that's why people get confused. It depends which reference you're going by, is which explanation you go with.
Right.
You know, so a lot of people out here, if they get confused.
As you're on the topic of chanting mantras in general, chanting the mantra purely in the, let's say, the sound without understanding the meaning, does chanting have any less value? So if you don't know that the mantra means everything I have is not mine, it's yours, it belongs to the universe, it belongs to God. But if you just chant it...
Or the 5 elements and everything else.
Yeah, but if you just parroting and you're chanting Om Namah Shivaya and you're just standing on the sound, does that have any value, or does the meaning...
It should be both.
Okay.
So this is what I've been saying since I've met you, is before you say a mantra, or even a bhajan, you sing it. You should know the full meaning of every word you're saying. That way it comes out with meaning. Yeah. It comes out with purity, right? But if you're just saying a mantra and you don't know the meaning, you've lost half the power of that mantra.
Okay.
Now,
well, like this mantra, Om Namah Shivaya, I remember earlier in this conversation, you mentioned that like a heartbeat, it has a rhythm.
Everything in the universe is rhythm and sound.
Yeah, but if you chant Om Namah Shivaya, that's like monotone, that's not rhythmic. So how you chant, just as an example, this mantra.
But who taught you to say it one level?
I don't know, like if you're just chanting based on no attachment to the meaning, just say Om Namah Shivaya. But if you're chanting like you say, it's supposed to be have a rhythm, how would you chant?
Correct. So when you do that,
Right?
all right, remember when I did the satsang
Yeah.
and I did the Om? The Om was 20 to 30 seconds each one. And I opened my throat. When you open the throat, when you say Om, do you know when somebody smokes a cigar and they could blow rings with the smoke?
Yeah.
Now with your throat, the sound's coming from your diaphragm. It's coming up. You open your throat, and now you flex your throat to make the sound wave come out. And if you play it back and listen to it closely, you'll hear the variation of that sound coming out. That should be with every mantra, not just the Om. When you do a mantra, if you have a bij in the mantra, a bij you have to emphasize. You have to bring it out a lot more. But a lot of people don't.
Okay.
You'll hear sometimes. Now I'm not knocking people because that's how they were trained. But if you have a true guru, he's going to have you say those words hundreds of times in a row until you get the sound correct.
Okay.
Because that is what gives the energy, the rhythm to go out.
Okay.
So you'll hear people say, Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya, right? Now, if a sage does it that way, he could do it that way and have full power. Because when you learn mantras, you're supposed to say it loud. Get that energy coming up. Emphasize the bij. And get the energy going out. When you get siddhi, the power, over that mantra, now you can lower the sound half. Now you're saying at half volume. You get the siddhi, the power over that. Then you could go to a whisper and have the same power over it. Then you can go to saying it mentally in your mind and still have the same effect within this environment with the same power. See, this is not being taught. And my students, they're trained that way. And when they can do it mental, you can move mountains. And people don't understand this. But a sage will say it quiet or may not say a word. He's doing it within meditation, right? But he has the siddhi over that mantra to accomplish or obtain what his goal was.
Is that something you could feel on your own, or you need a guru to guide you in?
You need somebody that knows the sound, the energy, and rhythms.
Right.
So first you get him to say the mantra. Raise the pitch, lower the pitch. If you got to go hum, you got to bring everything within that mantra. First they learn that, right? Then they start bringing it with loud sound.
Right.
All right? Once they learn that, so put the two together. Now, when they do the mantra, you teach them the rhythm for that mantra. So now you got the sound, you've got the rise and fall, which we talked about earlier within the universe.
Right.
And then you involve the rhythm. So you got the rise, the fall, the rhythm. That's where the power of the mantra resides. If you learn all three stages. Oh, and of course the meaning.
Yeah.
Right? And I wish everybody could learn this because it's so good to learn. You don't want to put God to sleep when you're saying the mantra. Don't you want to get his attention? Don't you want him to say, aha, there's my deity? Because he's hearing it. He's feeling the energy. He's feeling the rhythm. He's feeling it.
Yeah.
Right? But if you're just saying it and don't have the power over it, monotone. Now, the monks in Buddhism, they master the energy of tones. So now you could do Om or you could do mantras on one tone.
Okay.
But they've mastered the energy, the rhythm within that tone. If you notice, they'll spin on the bowls to get a certain tone. Or they have the big with the mallets and they hit. They're getting a certain tone. Okay? Right. So this is where training comes in. And do you think they did it on their own? No, they have a guru. The guru will take a certain amount of pupils, students, and start teaching them. You know, even back in Ram's day, when him and his brothers went and was taught by the guru, they stayed there, they lived there, they ate there for many years.
Yeah.
And they learned and got the siddhis over all of what I'm talking about. So why can't we continue it today? Every spiritual leader out here will actually have their students at least one day out of the month, at least.
Yeah.
And take the whole day and train them. That's what a guru's responsibility is.
No, because I wonder and then, like, is it something that when you hear someone chant it, as somebody, let's say I don't know, but then you could tell when you hear somebody chant that it has the power, you hear it or?
You'll feel it.
You feel it?
Let me tell you something. A normal person, when you do it powerful and correctly. All right, put it this way. This is what some people say. I'm not saying it to try to be boastful or ego.
Right.
But when we did the satsang and I did the 5 ohms, people swore the tent was vibrating from the energy. Well, it helped because I was on a microphone too.
Yeah.
You know, but that rhythm, the sound, all your hair will start to raise on your body. Have you ever heard a regular singer? And you'll hear somebody sing the song. It sounded good, but it was okay.
Yeah.
But you'll hear another person that is gifted to sing. That is one of their boons that they got when they were born. Man, every hair on your body will stand up. The difference? Sounded good, but it wasn't there yet. You have another person that puts their whole heart in it, their whole mind and soul. And you will feel that energy from the sound and the rhythm from that person. Okay. This is what I'm talking about. It's just not for mantras. Singing too.
Yeah.
Music.
Or vibration.
Exactly. Yeah. Different tones creates different waves. Different waves the human body responds to differently.
Yeah.
You know, and I don't think a lot of people pay attention to this. No. And if you really understood, because I've got a doctorate in metaphysics, and when you go through all this, it makes perfect sense. This is where science is lining up with spirituality, teachings. Mm-hmm. And once you start to merge them, then the first thing that comes out of people's mouths, well, why didn't we know this? Why didn't people teach us this? You know, and I do want to do programs in the future. I know we keep saying this, but We have a lot of information because what's between God and us?
Yeah.
Everything. Everything in this universe is between us and God. And we got to find the path to reach God. It isn't so easy to make a direct connection to God. You have to work at it. You have to have mind, will, determination, discipline, to go that far, that distance, for this amount of time to start to make that connection. But when you do, Omkar, there's nothing more that you can receive in this universe than that. Gold, diamonds, everything that we cherish here on earth is nothing compared to that. And this is where I would like everybody to try that wants to. You can't be forced. You can't be directed to do it. This has to be something down deep that a person wants to do, regardless of the religion and the prayers. See, Lord Shiva, this is what I've always loved about Lord Shiva. Even though he's so great, no limits, no boundaries, he has no ties to nothing. He represents simplicity. And that's why he don't have a palace. He just has regular things. He don't need those things. He's simplistic. But inside, he's very complicated. But to the people, simplicity. Why do we try to make things so hard when we can achieve something so easy? And this is where a lot of training doesn't go by. Another thing with Lord Shiva is when you go see my prayer room, you're going to see a big Lord Shiva, but his eyes are half and half open. The ancient pictures, almost all of them of Lord Shiva, his eyes are half open. Why? See, I don't know if this has been discussed. So, when his eyes are closed, creation. He's creating. I'm not just talking when he's meditating, but when he has something and he's going to do something, if he closes. If he opens big and wide, destruction. Now, when they are half and half, everything is balanced and harmonized within the universe. Okay. So, you'll see that when you come to my puja room. Remember, I was telling you, you just don't pick certain things because you like how he looks. You got to know which state, which form that Lord Shiva is in. I haven't covered half the stuff of the symbols of Lord Shiva.
So then if you have a murti in your house with Lord Shiva with his eyes wide open and you energize that murti, give it life, then you invite in destruction?
No. All I'm saying that the murtis should not have their eyes wide open.
Okay.
Okay? It should be half and half.
Okay.
Right? So
people home go and paint on, you have to go and paint now the eyes to be half closed.
But again, if people don't know, how are they going to change it? Right? So now, I want to go over a few little things. We got about 10 minutes.
Okay.
And I really need a full hour on this. But in the Puranic scriptures, they also talk about the avatars of Lord Shiva.
Right.
Okay? Now, Shiva's avatars is not universally accepted in Shaivism. That's a part of Hinduism. Shaivism.
Yeah, that's the Shiva.
It's a whole, Lord Shiva. Right?
Right.
Now, the Linga Puran, mentions 28 forms of Lord Shiva, which are often seen as avatars.
Right.
Okay? Now, the reason Lord Shiva's puja, when you do prayers, like when I do it, now I know you're going to be seeing one coming up. It takes 6.5 hours to do that puja, nonstop. No slowdown, no nothing. Why? We're not just putting Lord Shiva on the deity. You will put 8 forms of Lord Shiva on that deity too. So,
Just to clarify, this is Lord Shiva Puja, not Linga Puja.
linga puja is done with it.
Okay, all right.
It's one big thing
Okay.
as you go through. That's why it takes so long, right? And there's 4,500 steps in that puja. And people that actually witness it or they're the shrotas of it, when they first hear 6.5 hours, they're like, oh God, right?
I have 4,500 again tired already.
But when they're done, they'll say, wow, it only felt like an hour and a half.
Okay.
Because of the energy you're feeling, the rhythms, the sound, and you're experiencing all this energy as you're doing the puja. Actually, now let's be technical. Does God know time?
No.
No. So with the energy of the cosmos, the wave effect, the rhythm, the sounds, when you're doing that 6.5 hour puja, time don't exist. Right. That's why I said, if you remember past programs, when you do puja and a satsang, when I did the satsang, you notice I took my watch off.
Yeah.
You never have a watch. Let somebody else tell you when it's about time to quit, right? Because when you're involved and when you're engroped in this satsang or puja, time doesn't exist.
Yeah.
Lord Shiva is beyond time. So,
I remember something else you said too is that like that's 6.5 hours for us, but in God's eyes that's less than a blink of an eye in terms of God's time.
actually, it's way beyond that. It's beyond a nanosecond. That's what people don't have to understand. And next program that we're going to do, we're going to talk about that. Do you know in Hinduism, the Puranic timetables, them guys were geniuses back then, way beyond what we have today. And they've calculated everything down to even a blink of an eye. What is that from God's time to humans' time? And then you'll start to understand, why do I pray 6 months and don't see the results yet? But 6 months in God's time is a nanosecond. So this is where training, knowledge, understanding, you wouldn't get impatient. You would understand the process, you know, in what you're doing. And it's not being taught, Omkar. This is where I loved it when you came to me and you want to do this show. Not that I have all the answers, because guess what? There's some pundits here that I consult with that are super knowledgeable. They have the age and they have the experience. And then they call me too sometimes for advice. We all don't have the answers, but that's why we communicate, right? But most people won't. Their ego are too big. Their pride is too big. You're only degrading yourself. You have to uplift people in this world. Now, we're at 1 hour now. So people, I didn't hardly cover anything. I just tried to explain what I did talk about. But I wanted to go over the 8 forms that you put on the deity.
Okay.
What does it represent? Who's the wife? Who's the son? What is the duty of that form of Lord Shiva?
Okay.
Right?
We'll make it part 2.
We could do part 2, or we could wait after Shivatri. It's all up to you what you want to do. But everybody, and Omkar, it's been a pleasure being with you. And being with you, everybody. I just hope this made some sense. Like I said, everything that we see, the symbols, there are multiple meanings. And that's what gets people confused. It depends where you reference what from. So I hope you liked it. I hope you learned something. And we will be here next week with another one. And hopefully you can actually learn a little more. And we'll play whether we're going to go into the forms or are we going to the Puranic timetable. Okay? But everybody, be safe, enjoy your Shivatri, and have a great day. Sitaram.
God. Has any word in human history been more influential? Mankind has created religion after religion, written book after book, all in an effort to satisfy our quest for knowing God. Now, after many millennia, mankind is more at a loss to the nature of God. In fact, it appears that the tools we created to help us find God serve more as obstacles and hindrances. Those obstacles now stand between God and us. We extend to you an invitation to join Master Eric and Omkar for the weekly program Between God and Us every Sunday evening from 6 p.m. to 7 p.m. exclusively on Sankhya television. Between God and Us. Knowledge to free your soul.